Do you know what's Grab's losses so far?
I think more than that, right?
15 billion.
And this is after nearly doubling the Grab cost post-COVID in 2022.
Losses to date is 15 billion US dollars.
Yes.
After raising 22 billion. All right. Net cash, if you take out what they have marketable securities, investment.
Before we begin the podcast, have you gotten your free ebook? It's called the Build a Six-Figure Portfolio Guidebook. Now, inside it, we share with you the tips and tricks to bring your stock investing skills to the next level. The best part, it's only 10 pages long and it's totally free. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, the link to download is in the description, or you can go to www.firl.co/FREE or www.firl.co/free. Hello everyone, welcome back to the FIRL podcast, best place for long-term stock investors. Today we have a return.
Yeah, a returnee, which means it's good.
Which means it's good. And the first time he'll be here physically.
Correct.
Last time we did through Zoom, thanks to, the 67th MCO, right? But yeah, welcome back to the podcast, Pankaj.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Something different. Yeah. And I want to say your studio is quite impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For a small setup, but you have everything.
Yes. For those of you who are wondering, you guys can actually, or maybe we'll put it in the cards, or you can just, YouTube it yourself. To see our first interview with Pankaj, to hear his life story and all of that, how he got into the industry. But yeah, some context. He's a columnist for The Star.
Yeah.
And we've been enlightened a lot by his articles, and we're going to actually talk a lot about his thoughts when it comes to many things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I want to start off by asking you, like, globally. Right. I think the big topic is inflation. It has been a big topic for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
But 6 months ago, it was more among, fund managers, people in the industry, the corporate world. Today, especially, with our chicken situation, with Singaporeans coming over to pump petrol.
Correct.
Now on the ground, you're starting to feel inflation already, right? So maybe I want to start off by asking you, do you agree with the consensus that really this is a supply issue when it comes to inflation, the cost?
Well, I think I've commented about this before, and I did say that yes, it is a supply constraint issue, resulting in not enough raw materials or produce being sent to manufacturers so that supplies can be matched and all that. But at the same time, what has happened, if you look back over the post-COVID, especially we have, globally, maybe things have adjusted to a certain extent, because demand reduced because of COVID.
Correct.
And then suddenly you have pent-up demand.
Correct.
And when you have pent-up demand, supply is trying to match that demand. But if you look at global, in terms of how COVID was happening, different parts of the world was having COVID in a different stage.
Correct.
Yeah, China had it first.
Yes.
Then you had US, and you had Europe. India had a massive one. So different countries had a different cycle.
Their peak and the trough
was different.
Correct.
Yeah, so every country experienced differently. And at the same time, as you know, today we are all very globalized.
Yes.
Yeah, so supply chain can be affected. Correct. When one country is having a lockdown, another country is having a thriving economy, So you see these things mixing, in the sense that while everyone is trying to pump up in terms of supply because of the demand, pent-up demand, but they are not able to get what they want to. Like even today, car manufacturers, for example, having it tough, because of semiconductor issues and parts, and I think even in Malaysia, you won't be surprised. Floods. Floods affected production of cars. I was told, like yesterday, somebody told me, Proton, if you want to order a car today, it's an 8 months waiting list. Because their plant was affected because of the flood.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so going back to the issue about supply and demand, yes, we had actually a demand-induced, pressure first because of the opening up of the economy. But because supply couldn't match the demand, and because of supply disruption, caused material prices to go up. All right, so that actually induced inflation even more.
Right.
It was not demand-driven first, but it was supply. All right, so now you have a situation where inflation is everywhere. Yeah, from US to Australia, I think Europe is 8% as well.
Yep.
Of course, Malaysia we still have 2.2% for whatever reason. Yep.
They just changed the basket goods,
Yeah. That's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, inflation is still there, and in fact, the way I look at it, it has been a way how perhaps the Fed was addressing the issue. The Fed was, as I said before, Fed was in denial. They thought that inflation was temporary, not persistent. So they didn't act. They allowed inflation to continue to go up, and of course, as you know, the Fed looks at PCE, personal consumption expenditure, and target is 2%. And although that already surpassed long time ago, the Fed didn't act. Even up to November last year, the signs were already there, and the Fed only started acting this year. So they were behind. They are behind the curve, and today they are planning to play catch up.
Right.
They've already raised 75 basis point. Market, in fact, I was just doing some work this morning, and market is looking at about 2.75 to 3% this year.
Yeah.
You are talking about another 200 basis point hike.
Yeah.
All right, just to catch up on inflation pressure. But at the same time, if you look at the global picture, yes, inflation has gone up quite a bit, but it looks like it's going to peak. Right? So the way I look at it, perhaps in the next few months, you may see some tapering in terms of the readings as far as inflation is concerned. And maybe the Fed doesn't need to raise that much anymore. And of course, the other thing that is affecting markets, if you talk about markets, is of course the Fed's quantitative tightening, which starts this month, $95 billion a month for the next 12 months, which will take away about $1 trillion or shrink its balance sheet by $1 trillion. That affects liquidity in the market as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they're shrinking from a balance sheet of 4 to 5 trillion.
No, close to 9 trillion.
Wow. Okay, I need to
I think the last I saw
now.
was 8.9 trillion.
Okay. This is pre-COVID numbers.
Pre-COVID was 4 point something.
Yes, I got the pre-COVID numbers. Okay, 9 trillion. So, still a 10% reduction.
Yeah. So, well, that's Fed's plan.
Right.
But of course, plans can change, depending on data, depending on what's happening. And before you know it, we'll be in recession. So I don't actually see rates going up that much. I think, yes, the Fed is persistent, and market do expect a June 50, a July 50. Thereafter, is anybody's guess. Although market is still looking at 25 each. But you may see a pause because if numbers don't come out, if numbers become tame, especially inflation as well as economic growth, Fed will pull back. Definitely.
But do you think
that is your cue actually? That is your cue.
But do you think the Fed can actually stop it? Because I think you wrote about this in one of your recent articles about stagflation, right? Is this actually something that the Fed can stop, just like it was during the 70s and 80s?
Well, the Fed is trying to tackle the inflation pressure that it's seeing, and the only way it can do is doing this, by fighting inflation.
Those are the only levers they...
Yeah, correct. Your bullets are kind of limited. What else can you do? Because certain things are not within your control. Especially if you talk about supply disruption, the war in Ukraine. You can't do much about it.
Those are really like, in a way...
Beyond your control.
It's really like a black swan event.
So what you can do is control what you can control. And that is using monetary measures, which includes, of course, raising interest rates. Of course, the Fed is also trying to reduce liquidity by shrinking its balance sheet. But of course, it has an effect on the market as well.
For sure.
We're already seeing... as you can see, the Nasdaq and S&P 500, they've all dropped significantly this year because of selling and all that.
I like to peel back on two, because you raised a lot of points, and I want to peel back a little bit more on two, I would say perhaps nuances that rather than just quantitative numbers, it's more about nuances of culture. So what the Fed is trying to do with these levers and increasing interest rate is something that Japan has been trying to do for a very, very long time. And yet they have not hit any of the inflation targets in a way, right? That's one. The second question is with regards to things like supply disruption. So, Port of Shanghai is so congested today. Do you think that with just monetary levers, can they alleviate that? Because unless they sort out that supply chain issue, right, it's not just being just raw materials, animal feed, whatever. It's really like even getting goods that are finished to the port of destination.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So when you talk about supply disruption, you got to understand what caused that supply disruption. Yeah. So for example, transportation of goods from point A to point B.
Correct.
What is the bottleneck?
Yes.
Is it the clearance at the custom, or is it not enough ships? Shipping rates are sky high.
Correct.
Right. So what are the cause of this disruption? So using monetary measures to address supply issues may not be the answer.
Exactly. That's the point.
It's just like how Bank Negara, is saying that, let's raise 25 basis point on OPR. But does it address the issue? Because inflation in Malaysia officially is 2.2%.
Yes.
All right. And Bank Negara itself said that it's comfortable with inflation and expect inflation to be at 2 to 3% this year.
Wow.
So it's already within that range. So why do you raise interest rates? Yeah. So are you addressing, like me, you talk about chicken issue, right? Are you addressing the supply disruption in the chicken business?
Yeah. How do we solve it? What's your take on
Well, I
it?
think the government actually had it. All right. They were supposed to provide some subsidy to the breeders.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of feedstock and don't know what not. But money never came.
Yes.
From what I read.
Yeah, from what I read too, it was supposed to be
It says
700.
that, 700 million and only like 10%
Dispersed.
dispersed. So where is the balance? All right. So if I'm a breeder, I say, hey, hello, I'm not going to run this chicken business if I'm going to lose money.
Yes.
Why would I?
Because you see, your upside is capped.
Yeah.
Your feed cost is rising. You're being squeezed,
Correct.
Why would I want to...
And then you halt exports some more.
Yeah, exactly. So
correct. So you have a situation where the government's measures rightly, sometimes on paper they do it right, but in reality,
implementation
is not there.
Yeah.
So then you have situation where you make wrong decisions.
Correct.
Yeah, like you say, okay, let's stop exporting to Singapore.
Yeah.
Does that solve the issue?
That's crazy.
We were in Singapore last weekend, Pankaj, and I was telling them I'm from Malaysia. The first thing the taxi driver told me, why you people, it's so unfair.
I was in Malacca yesterday. And my brother-in-law from Singapore also came up. So we were also talking about chicken issues. So we were both on a day trip, right? KL Malacca, and he's Singapore Malacca. So I said, before you go back, make sure you stop in JB and have your chicken rice. Because you see, it affects people's lives.
Correct.
It affects businesses.
Correct.
In Singapore, chicken rice is also
a staple.
So it affects businesses, and of course, one thing about Singapore, they are very fast.
Yes.
The moment you say that I'm not going to supply you, quickly, they will look for alternatives.
Yes.
Thailand, Indonesia, Australia,
even US.
Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil.
Even chicken from Brazil.
Yeah.
But of course, these are all frozen, not live chicken.
Yeah, of course. Won't taste as good, but it's still there. It's good enough, right?
It's good enough.
We'll take it, right?
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Malaysia a little bit later on, but
there's one more part.
Japan. About
Japan.
Japan.
I think that question that you posed on Japan, I tend to disagree.
Okay, please.
Because Japan for the longest time, Japan had a problem achieving inflation target.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
They're trying to reflate the economy over and over again, and they couldn't.
Yes.
Even up to today.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And you will be surprised if you go to Japan. Prices today in Japan are probably cheaper than they were 10 years ago.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So this is what you call like a deflation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's lost decade, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Right. So Japan having it very different compared to the rest of the world.
That's why the point I was trying to bring this into discussion in the sense
and that is why Japan doesn't have pressure to raise rates. And that's why yen is weakening. Yen is at 130 today. All right. From I think beginning of the year was 115.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's down like 10-12%.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, right? What do you is it? Would you attribute the recent ringgit depreciation because of us not raising rates as fast as the US, or you would say that there's an alternative reason?
Well, I tend to not agree with what a lot of people are saying that
Okay.
ringgit is weak. It's not the ringgit is weak; it's the dollar that is strong.
Strong, right?
Yeah, dollar index, if you look at it, is up a lot. Dollar is up like 11% against yen.
Yeah.
9-10% against the euro. It's also up against the Aussie dollar.
Yeah.
It's also up against the Korean won. Only thing, if you look at relatively, when you look at Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, and Philippines, the ASEAN countries, the ringgit is the weakest. All right, we are down like 5%.
Yep.
The rest of the currency is down between 2 to 4%.
Right.
So we are down a bit more than them. But when you look at globally, yeah, it's not the ringgit itself, it's actually the dollar.
The
Yeah.
devil are in the details.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, currency is always relative.
Yes.
Yeah, so you cannot just take one measure and say, oh yeah, ringgit is stronger. Oh yeah, ringgit is weaker. Yeah, so you got to take certain perspective in terms of trying to compare.
The struggle is most currencies are always looked in pairs.
Yeah.
Of course,
But, yeah, and that's why when you brought it up about looking at a basket, that's where you should measure rather
Yeah,
than
yeah.
being relative. I just look at one pair lah.
Cannot. You
Exactly.
Yeah, so and you know why dollar is strong?
Yeah.
Dollar is strong because Fed is expected to raise interest rates.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Yes.
All right, and you know, dollar being a safe haven currency, naturally, money will flow. Yeah, and of course, at the same time, I mean, you saw how U.S. treasuries have really moved. Yeah, so obviously, it looks much more attractive today than it was maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah. On this, it just triggered, there was a sell down of the Chinese on US treasuries. Yeah. So, what's your take on that? I mean, if you look at it purely from a quantitative measure, now will be one of the best times to buy treasuries with rising
think
rates.
so?
Okay, I mean, that's one school of thought. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts in a way?
I would say yes and no lah.
Okay.
There would be still some weakness as far as US treasuries are concerned. Yeah, because rates are still continue to rise. Yeah, market is pricing forward a bit to a certain extent. Yes, the 10-year has actually appreciated a bit. Yeah, from if you look at yield from 3.2 is about 2.75 now, I think, if I'm thereabouts. But that is different perspective why it happened. Yeah, because some of the inflation numbers that came out recently was a bit, I mean, still there, but it didn't really go up anymore. It was within expectation. So market kind of happy to see that, oh, maybe inflation has peaked. Right? So that's why we saw some rally back into the treasuries. But I reckon the US treasuries will continue to weaken.
I see.
Yeah. Going back to 320 is definitely on the cards.
Okay.
Yeah, but whether it will depreciate even more, it depends on Fed's move.
Understand.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, right, I just have this is a wild question. I think few people are asking, or maybe I'm not reading enough. But what do you think at this kind of environment would cause the Fed to actually drop rates? Because I'm hearing very small voices that they raise the rates.
Yes.
Okay, you might curb inflation.
Yeah.
But what actually ends up happening is that now you are putting pressure on the balance sheets of companies.
Yeah.
So when that happens, well, what happens to your stock market?
Yeah.
It drops. Well, when the stock market drops, people's pensions also drops, right? Especially in the US.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Like, do you think that dropping rates is a realistic scenario?
It really be data dependent, first of all.
Okay.
And the biggest data that the Fed will be looking at is the inflation data, PCE. All right. If it sees PCE has already peaked and started to drop a bit, then it probably can put its foot off the pedal. Yeah.
Right.
In the sense that it may not raise rates.
Just let it cool
Whether
off.
it cuts, that will depend on economic numbers. Yeah. If GDP growth were to slow down a lot more, consumer confidence, retail sales,
Yes.
housing starts, all those starts to falter, then you see the Fed starting to cut. Yeah.
But do you think
and
it's
maybe
likely?
it was probably may even stop its quantitative tightening. I really don't think Fed is going to go all the way.
No.
Yeah, Fed says about 95 billion a year. Yeah, they may do a few months. 95 billion a month. They may do it for a few months, but the moment they see that things are not really working out, they will just pull back.
Wow.
That's what I think.
I think the world is just so
Complex.
It's not easy to maneuver.
No, it's not.
When you have a very high inflation rate,
Yes.
yeah, and growth. I mean, you're just coming out of pandemic, yeah. Of course, early on the numbers were all spectacular because on year-on-year comparison, low base, blah blah blah. But now you're back to normal, yeah. And once you're back to normal, you're not going to see that spectacular growth anymore, yeah. So growth, as you know, is always a comparison.
Correct.
Yeah. So when you already have a big jump, you can't jump anymore. Yeah. So you'll see some tapering.
Yeah.
Even inflation, you're seeing 8% today, but you're not going to see 8% next year. All right. Next year, this month, inflation print will not be 8% because it's very high base.
Correct.
Oil price at $120.
Yes.
All right.
So I have to ask you, because I think John and I weren't actually born yet during the 70s stagflation, right?
I was born, but I don't know what
Yeah.
stagflation was.
Oh, okay. But I'm not sure if you've done any homework on this, but it sounds like, again, the war stories back in the 70s I hear from my parents and people in their 50s and 60s is that it was pretty bad, right? Gas, people were lining up for gas. Do you think that...
We're going to go back there.
Yeah, how far are we from that, actually?
Okay, I think I wrote about this actually.
Yes, which is why I want to ask you, yeah.
If you compare 70s and now,
Yeah.
2 out of 3 conditions are present today.
Okay.
All right. One is, of course, we have a slowing growth.
Yep.
We have very high inflation, but we don't have an unemployment problem.
Huh.
All right. Those days, in the 70s, unemployment was a big problem.
This was the Phillips curve discussion, right, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't recall
Okay,
that
anyway,
one.
doesn't matter. Yeah,
so,
continue.
Unemployment.
Yeah.
So, but today, if you look at US or even Malaysia, for example,
Yeah.
unemployment, I mean, as far as official data is concerned, it's not an issue. All right. In fact, labor market remains very tight
Yep.
in the US. Our average hourly earnings is still rising like 5% year on year. Right. So there's no pressure. So the 3 ingredients required, if you want to talk about stagflation, it's not there. It's only 2 out of 3. Yeah. So I don't see it coming. Yeah. And I think, I mean, of course, the Fed is trying to do as usual, soft landing. Whether they are able to do so or not, only time will tell.
Understand.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought up those 3 conditions because over the past few days I've been out eating. and because my family, some of my
Observation.
family, yeah. So I was just asking, there was a place where we regularly go, and they normally open for dinners on a Saturday. You know, Saturday is the best time to make money for a restaurant, right? Saturday night. They closed.
Oh.
And I asked them why they can't hire. Can't hire. And on Thursday evening, I was asking, what's the attrition rate for your? It was quite a high-end restaurant, so we asked, what's the attrition rate? He said, you want to ask someone to wash plate and wash cups. You want to guess what's the going rate right now, Pankaj?
1,008?
2.5. No one wants to come.
Wow.
I was shocked beyond.
Yeah, but that's more than the median salary of the Malaysian.
Exactly.
50% of Malaysian don't even earn 2,100.
Yeah, so obviously it's not just to wash the cups but it's also to serve guests. But even then, 2.5,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I was like, oh, okay. So to your point about those 3 things, the other thing I want to ask, maybe probe a little bit deeper, is that in the 1970s, a lot of employment was from very big multinationals or SMEs. But today you see a big rise in what we call the gig economy.
Oh, yes.
A lot of freelancers and all that.
Yeah.
So do you think that impacts and then skews a little bit of this unemployment data?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
As you know, I think not only in Malaysia, but I think globally it's a trend.
Correct.
Especially because of COVID.
Yes.
You have this great resignation, you talk about it.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of them are going on freelance basis.
Correct,
You know,
yeah.
and they think they feel more comfortable doing it. They can earn their own money in their own time. You know, so this is a trend, global trend. Yeah. So to a certain extent, I mean, you give the example, 2,500 ringgit as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
You know, some people may think, why would I want to bother if I can earn more than that?
Yeah.
Grab,
you know,
you
as
can
a
earn more than that,
freelancer
really.
or a Grab driver, you know, or food delivery.
Yeah.
You know, I earn even more than that.
Yes. And
So,
I have time flexibility.
I have time flexibility. I think that's the biggest catch.
Yes.
Time flexibility. And today, you know, our roads are so bad.
Yes.
Traffic jam. You know, if you are going to work in KL, you're going to waste 2 hours a day
Precisely.
just going up and down.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that 2 hours is so precious that you can do so many things.
I usually listen podcasts. but that's me. I cannot.
So to summarize, will you agree that really the difference between now and 70s is the tech?
I
the
think-
technology that has enabled all sorts
I
of
think
jobs.
the other
to
thing
appear.
also, you have to
Right.
understand globally, right? In 1970s, oil as an input
Yes.
of manufacturing or as a production cost
Huge.
is high. Yeah, so the impact is significant. Today, oil is not so.
Not so.
Yeah, so even oil is 120, 150, it doesn't have that kind of impact anymore compared to the 70s.
I think it's the rise of also alternative. I mean, I know in China it's still very coal dependent.
Yeah.
Fossil fuel stuff.
Fossil fuel dependent, but with the rise of a lot of alternative energy,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it will take over oil in the short term, but I think in the 70s, I doubt there was solar. I mean, I wasn't born.
No,
then.
no solar, no electric, no
hydro
battery.
was also very small.
Very small.
Yeah.
So oil was a very big factor
I see. That's
in
that's
terms of
insight.
production.
Yeah.
In terms of employment also.
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
But
exactly.
today, nobody wants to work for, like, not many want to,
The
if they have
triple
a
D,
choice
ma, the dirty, the
Yeah,
dangerous,
correct.
and
Yeah,
They want to work for the tech
Yeah.
companies and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, so it's a very different
Yeah.
scenario.
So I want to put you in a hot seat now, very, very hot seat, right?
that's why we blast the aircon so cold, right?
Hypothetically, you are now the governor of Bank Negara. You are seeing what's happening around the world. You're seeing what's happening in Malaysia. What would be your biggest concerns and how will you go about solving it? Of course, inflation will be one of them.
I think Malaysia's problem is actually wages. And of course, maybe to a certain extent, it's also about the mismatch of jobs. Between people who are coming out of universities and they are not, meeting the labor market requirement, that kind of thing. So there's a mismatch there. And of course, wages. I think I talked about this before as well.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, government has raised minimum wage 1,500, but it has to elevate everyone. Yeah.
Oh, actually,
in
just to
terms of-
pause you there, right? Just to your point, right, on the minimum wage, right? For those listening and for yourself, to show how little effect it has, right, on true wages, right? We actually spoke to people at 7-Eleven because
Yeah.
these are the guys hiring minimum wage workers a lot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
They said, "Oh, is this going to impact you?" And you know what they said? They said, "No, it's okay. We just raise our prices. Doesn't matter."
Yeah. Okay, I have written about this as well. And I can tell you, actually, wages as a percentage of cost is actually very small. It's not significant.
Yes.
All right? So, and then, of course, for example, if a small company, for example, hires 10 people, how many of those 10 people are in minimum wage category?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right? If there's only 2%, you're going to raise your salary by 30%, for example, whatever it is. All right? How does it impact your wage cost? It's very small.
Insignificant.
Insignificant. So all these noises that you hear, minimum wage cannot afford, it's all bullshit. They can afford it very well.
Yeah.
If you take, I have done one study earlier, I think this was in 2019 if I'm not mistaken. Wages as a percentage of revenue, among listed companies. I took the biggest company in 13 sectors.
Okay.
It's only, what was it? Yes, it was only about 10%.
Wow.
All right, and it ranged between 5 to about 14-15% thereabouts. I mean, certain industries a bit higher. Lah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but on average, only 10%.
Then if you take
Wages. And you take out, how many people are in minimum wage?
you take out, and then you take out director fee, you take out all the top echelons, right?
Yeah.
The guys at the bottom, it's like,
Yes,
The people in
nothing.
public bank are minimum wage
It's
workers, right?
nothing.
Yeah.
All right, so all these are just noises. Yeah, so we should pay our people better.
Yes.
Yeah, so that they can afford. Because
Okay.
when you have a situation where people cannot afford, a lot of things can happen.
Yeah.
They can't make ends meet.
Yes.
If they don't make ends meet, what do? They borrow.
Yep.
Whether it's loan or personal loan or don't know what not. All right. Or they steal.
Yeah.
All right. Or corruption as well.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
So all this has an effect,
Yeah.
because they can't make ends meet.
Yeah.
So what do? You see? So wages actually is the biggest issue. The way I look at it. as
So
far as
based on what
Malaysia
you
is
just told me, I realized I've put you in the wrong hot seat. The Bank Negara governor cannot solve the wage
Yeah.
issue in Malaysia, right?
Cannot,
Let me
cannot.
put you into a bigger hot seat, which is the Prime Minister's seat. how
Okay,
would
I will
Pankaj
give you
solve
an
the
answer.
wage?
I will give
the
you a very
wage?
good answer as
Okay.
far as the Prime Minister is concerned.
Okay.
All right. If I'm the Prime Minister of Malaysia, I'll just do two
Okay.
things.
Okay.
One, of course, I will ban anyone or any political party which is race-based or religious-based.
Okay.
Ah.
Okay.
All right, we don't need that.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Just
only
put it
need-
aside. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to move forward as one.
Yes.
All right, whether we are Malay, Chinese, Indian, Kadazan, whatever we
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
we are all Malaysians.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter whether what race you are, what religion you are,
Yeah.
what political party should be championing people's rights.
Yes.
Right? Not about race, not about religion.
Yes.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
That's the first.
Second is, of course, to lift up the standard of education in this country.
Oh. So good.
Yeah? Because as you can see, there's a vast disparity
Oh, yes.
between people who can afford education. I mean, we all pay taxes,
Yes.
but we don't send our children to national schools
Yes.
for reasons you all know why.
Yes.
Yeah? So we need to close that gap. Yeah, we need to have better educators.
Yes.
We need to have a system that is consistent. You know, our children should not be what do you call guinea pigs.
Yes.
In terms of new syllabus and don't know what not.
Now no more. They just
PT3.
removed PT3. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
My wife just told me yesterday. I said,
Okay.
Yeah. So you see, we need to move forward in that sense, you know, because you need to get your basics right.
Yeah.
Once you get your basics
That's
right,
right.
then the country can move forward.
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
So I have to ask a follow up then, because I think if you ask most people in the country or even globally, right, all of them will agree that they want better education. But the question is, what ought to be considered better education? For example, if you ask someone who is Chinese educated, he said that no, people need to study, everyone needs to study Mandarin because you know China is very big and all that. Then perhaps if you ask someone in rural Malay communities, they believe that religious education
Madrasah,
is very, very
the
important.
madrasah
Very, very
schools and
important.
all that,
then
right?
perhaps this is my ignorance, maybe the Indians will have something
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about. Maybe the rest will have something to talk about as well. So my question to you is what would you consider better education?
What would be the benchmarks for good education? I think
Let's look at regionally. Which country has thrived well? Yeah, in terms of
Singapore lah.
We all know about Singapore, but we also know the success stories of countries like Vietnam,
Yes. Yes.
or maybe even Thailand to a certain extent.
Yes.
Yeah, and how are they doing it? Is race and religion part of their curriculum?
Nope.
Yeah. So you see, you want to educate the young ones,
Yeah.
the children,
Yeah.
the leaders of tomorrow.
Correct.
You want to teach them the basic, in terms of what are the right subjects for you to learn.
Correct.
You want to learn religion subjects, you do it on your own. You want to learn your own language, you can do it on your own if you want to. I mean, in Singapore, there's no Chinese national schools.
Yeah.
Right.
Or Tamil national schools.
But they
or whatever.
have to learn their mother tongue.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes.
They have. So you have a system like that.
Yes.
Right.
So in Malaysia, we are what do you call separated to a certain extent
Yeah.
from the very young age.
Yes.
Yeah, because you go to Chinese school, he goes to Malay school, another fella goes to the Tamil school, so there's no mixing around.
Right.
So we don't understand each other that much.
Yeah.
Precisely. Actually, we were looking at
Nazir Razak's
Nazir
book.
Razak's book, and I'm a product of a LaSalle school.
Ah,
So my daughter is attending somewhat of a LaSalle school, but private lah. I was public LaSalle school where
Yeah.
taxpayers' money, and then what I find very sad today is that I think this is my suspicion that a lot of these are done on purpose, Pankaj, to segregate the community, and coming
it's
back
the
to
divide and rule.
is the divide and rule. And what I found is that when you are young, and correct me if I'm wrong, even during your age, right? When you are young, you grew up with nothing in a way.
Correct.
There is no divide in class, race,
No.
whatsoever. You just know each other as
Yeah.
your mutu,
Yeah,
your achong,
correct.
whatsoever, right?
Correct.
You learn to embrace, you learn to tolerate each other's nuances, culture, whatsoever, and you learn to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Today, when we have schools that penalizes people who are not of a certain faith to eat during a certain fasting period,
Yeah.
what is the message trying to send? So if I send to a Chinese school and I ask a person to pick up a joystick and to force, I think that's in a way already a blank sheet of paper, right? You're already polluting them. I think that's...
Yeah.
But you see, right, because of all this, who suffers the most? Actually, it's our own country, you know.
Yeah, the country suffers.
The country, you talk
Because we are
about...
going backwards.
If you don't think long term, what will happen? Less educated workforce, less taxes, less FDI, less...
Yeah, correct.
everything, huh?
Everything less.
Yeah.
And then those who are a little bit better
Yeah.
in terms of their education or in terms of their ability to carry themselves,
Yeah.
leaders, they all leave the country.
Yes.
You know, they go to Singapore, they go to Australia, they
Yeah.
go to Hong Kong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then where does Malaysia go?
Yeah.
You know, what are we left with?
Exactly. So why? Okay, I know it's been an ongoing topic, and we want to try to move it back to investments. But where do you think we, as either an investing community or whatever, can provide incentives for people to create, in a way, an affordable system? Is it through pooling together resources? No, I mean just throwing this a very hypothetical question. Pooling together resources, or create somewhat of a policy, government policy, to allow the flourishment of, I wouldn't say, don't talk about the garden school, the ISK, and all that, right?
They don't have this
They
issue,
don't. They have that problem, right? And anyway, it's paid by company money, a lot of expat money, right?
Yeah.
How can we create somewhat of a tier system where people can afford more middle class kind of school? Do you
I think first of all, you need to have that political will to change.
Okay.
Change is not easy. Right? Change takes time.
Okay.
Certain things takes a generation to do.
Yeah.
I mean, like say, for example, if you want to eliminate corruption, it will take you a generation.
Yeah.
All right, it's not easy. It's already engraved in the system.
Yes.
Yeah, to a large extent.
Yeah.
So you talk about education, same thing.
Yes.
How do you change? Because we are, to a certain extent, we are going in a different direction when it comes to the policies that we are introducing today, the way our students are studying, how they are mixing. Yeah, it's not. It's very different than what you have gone through. Definitely very different than what I've gone through.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm also a product of the national school system.
Yes.
I mean, I was all the way in national school, including my university. I was in University of Malaya. Right. So in that sense, you can see that I've gone through the whole system, but we embrace each other, whether we are Chinese, Indian, Malay, no issue, no problem. And we also switch. I mean, we studied Malay, all right, but the moment we went to university, we switched to English just like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not an issue.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So, but today, the students can't do that.
They struggle.
They struggle. So language is very important, all right? It's not just about studying, but able to communicate,
Articulate.
articulate, all right? And of course, when you are outside the country, you need to have that skill, all right? And if you are a leader, you definitely need to able to communicate. If you can't communicate, it's very different. I mean, Malaysia can be sidelined if you can't express your what do you call, pleasure or displeasure or your opinion, in a certain way. I mean, if you see how Kyrie delivered his speech,
Yeah, it was.
all right, you feel proud that he's a Malaysian, for example.
Yes.
Yep.
But if you see someone else delivering a speech, you wonder what is he saying.
Someone's daughter, right? I don't know if you saw that.
I don't know.
clip.
I mean, I don't want to mention names,
Okay,
but
okay.
whoever else is, and they are not speaking in English.
Yeah.
And you wonder who is listening.
Yes.
All right. So we need to reclaim back what we have lost in that sense.
Yes.
It's not going to be easy. Change, we did change in 2018.
Yeah.
But, we lost it again. Elections are coming again around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how people are feeling because I think if you ask a lot of people, there's a little bit of political, tiredness.
Jaded, they're very jaded about
Fatigue already.
Fatigue, political fatigue. Yeah, so there's also an issue whether people are willing to come out to vote again. To vote for change.
Yeah.
Because I mean the signs are all there in terms of where we are headed. Yeah, if you look at our country in terms of our debt level, in terms of our credit rating, in terms of where the ringgit is, in terms of our FDIs, in terms of our corruption perception index, it's all there.
Yeah.
All right, so numbers don't lie. All right, so when you look at the numbers, then you ask yourself, why are we here and why are we not there? Why is the other country there and we are here? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what is wrong? What do we need to do? Right. So these are very important questions, but sadly, not many people want to sit down and discuss about it or
There's
be a
no
part
discourse.
of the change.
There's no discourse.
Yeah.
And when there's no discourse, then
No, I can tell you one thing is that as far as businessmen is concerned, they feel that as far as I can do business, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't care what's happening politically.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, so that's also another wrong way of looking at things.
Interesting.
Yeah? So to me, as a citizen of the country, you should strive to make the best of the country, contribute and ideas, nation building, don't have that tidak apa attitude lah. I mean, that's not right lah.
Right.
Or either that, go with the flow and work with the system of the existing one, just adapt, rather than be something more magnanimous than just, you know, just
Yeah, but the
making
other
money.
thing is that so sometimes people can do all sort of recommendation, and sometimes government can also come out with policies. But the
Yes.
thing is also about implementation.
Yeah.
I also find that very difficult in Malaysia
Yeah.
when it comes to implementation and enforcement.
Yes, yes.
Like for example, we have all the right laws, all right, but how do we enforce them?
Remember our last podcast, we talked about illicit
Yeah,
cigarettes
illicit cigarette, yeah,
and
yeah,
all that
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not just I mean, this morning even I was reading the minister, human resources minister, talking about the minimum wage. You know, he said, oh, some companies are not adhering to the minimum wage order. So I'm thinking, hello, this is the law.
You are supposed to.
You are supposed to enforce, and you are saying people are not following. So what is the law for?
Is the police saying, "Oh, no one's catching the crook running
Yeah.
away"? Like,
So enforcement is really a key thing lah. I
Yeah.
mean, you can have all sort of laws, all sort of ideas, but if you don't enforce, you don't implement, you are back to square one.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
so speaking of tidak apa, right? Let's talk a little bit about annual reports.
Yes.
okay.
I would. Yeah.
Let's go from political governance to corporate governance a little bit, right? I know you have a lot to say about annual reports. So do we. We are investors, so we have a lot of gripe with the scenery right now. Some hope with MFCB recently, where they have this a public investor
Rather than just to the
correct.
institutional.
Mega
public.
first, yeah.
Yeah,
Mega
mega
first.
first because they first
they open up the thing to
to the
correct.
public. Yeah.
So we have our thoughts, and I think people have heard our thoughts enough. But what is the issue with annual reports today?
They are
What
just
what are the issues?
What are the issues? And
well, I don't think so. There's issue as far as the financial statements are presented lah.
okay.
Those are
because MFRS or IFRS standard,
yeah, correct. So nothing to do with numbers, all right? I think it's the way how annual reports are prepared today in terms of trying to portray an image. Yeah, whether it's about governance issue, environmental issues, sustainability, everything is hunky dory. If you read 10 annual reports tell you the same story. Everything is good, all right? But if you know one of these two of these companies, right, you'll be surprised. What they actually say in the annual report is not something they practice. All right? I mean, I'm sure you have some experience. I have my own experience. I mean, these are first-hand experience.
Yeah.
You know, where you see that, hey, the company say, we treat our customers like this. But how come you treat me like that? Oh, the company says, oh, there's an avenue for me to report if there is something wrong. But the company never listened to my complaint. So
but then net promoter score number 1.
yeah, so this is the issue. You see, you say something, but you don't walk the talk. All right. So a lot of annual reports today is just glossy and just, you know, all the CSR thing. You know, but to what extent is really, you know, painting the right picture, especially in terms of governance. You know, so I find that sometimes, I mean, sad lah, but then it's not giving the right picture because everybody paints you the same picture. They all tell you the good stories only. They don't tell you, of course, the bad stories.
Probably the editor is the same for all these 10 annual reports.
I don't know.
I'm just
Probably,
kidding.
I think the demand for annual report is very high, you know, in terms of what you are able to produce and tell every year, you know, and especially the big companies, you look at the annual reports, they're so thick.
Yeah, 500 pages.
And I think for you to produce that kind of annual report, it takes you months to do.
Precisely.
The moment you finish this year's annual report, the next year's annual report
Preparation
starts
already
straight
start.
away.
Yeah.
Straight away. It's like a project every year one. You know, so you try to portray that image, whether it's HR, whether it's consumer, whether it's how you treat your investors, you know, or governance issues, you know. So I think it's all painted lah.
Yeah, on this point, right, and it's good that we're talking about the reporting system. I'd like to dig a little bit deeper about governance. And you see, as investors, even in the financial sector, right, when you are trained as an analyst, first thing you look at is how to read numbers, how to understand businesses, right? I mean, we are not from the investing world, right? But is there actually any formal training on understanding corporate governance or not? And then if it does, is it very concept based? or is it very, from your experience? I mean, share with us your insights. As an analyst, they say, oh, this is a 101 on corporate governance. This is what you do. Do you guys look at case studies and how? Do you have that?
Code of corporate governance, as you know, has also evolved over time. Yeah.
Yes.
And the latest one is the 2021 MCCG, which has drawn out all the practice notes, in terms of what every corporate should do, and everybody should report, whether they are applying the principles, and if there's deviation, what are you doing about it, that kind of thing. Like, for example, you need to have 30% women board members.
Yeah.
And if you have 20%, okay, what are you going to do about it? When are you going to meet the objective, that kind of thing. So these are part of corporate governance issues. Of course, there are certain governance standards. Some corporates find it tough to achieve. One of them is this 30% thing. Some of them also find it difficult to get independent directors, for example, who are not beyond the 9 years. A lot of companies have got beyond 9 years. Now SC has put a stop to it. Now you cannot go beyond 12 years. So some of these are governance issues. So corporates will look at all the standards as far as the MCCG 2021 is concerned, and try to meet as much as they can. Right? If they can't, they'll say why they can't, and when they are able to meet, for example. And there are also some step-up practices, where you can go one level higher in terms of your standard
compliance.
Compliance. So for example, if you say 30% women, I got 35%, for example. So I got slightly more.
Okay.
So those are step-ups.
I see. Is it regularly enforced? Because like as an
okay, this is the other issue. The Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance is just a code.
It's a guide.
It's a guide.
Yes.
So whether you comply or not, if you don't apply the principle, you just say I didn't apply. Right. So there's no, you don't get whacked, for not complying, unless it's in breach of listing requirement. Then different story.
Yes.
Right? Or if it's against the company law, then different story.
Correct.
Yeah, so,
against Company Act or something like. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought it up was, remember, I think it's in hindsight, court cases all out already. So this case about Serbadk Dynamic. So what happened was that the audit committee chairman was presented a finding by their auditors, and the CEO of Serbadk just said that no, by right you should have come to me. But if you read the code of conduct, corporate governance, he did the right thing because the audit committee is above the executive.
Correct.
But how many people know that? That's the point I'm trying to argue.
Okay, so then is a question about education lah. To what extent people are able to appreciate what it should be in the first place. People who are in public listed company as directors, they know it.
They have to know it.
Yeah, they have to know it.
By
in
right
fact, today, I mean, if you're a director today, this year, for example, if you're a new director of a listed company, you have to go through a mandatory accreditation program.
Okay,
all right, sponsored by
CMF, is it?
No. It's a requirement by Bursa, but carried out by ICDM, the Institute of Corporate Directors Malaysia.
Okay.
So they do it, and it's a 3-day event, half day every 3 half days lah.
3 half days. Okay.
So you go through the process of corporate governance issues, where you need to understand what it means, what is insider trading, what is this, what is that, and of course, by right, every director of a listed company should understand what the Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance is all about, right? And why you need to meet the expected standards of what has been laid out.
Yes. So that is for the directors serving their duty. What about investors? Where do you think that the education should come? Because you go to Bursa website, there's probably a few 100-pager kind of requirements, or you go to, let's say, MSW, minority shareholder, MSWG, they'll tell you some bits and pieces here.
Okay, there are 2 ways to do it. I mean, of course, investors also have to do their little bit of homework lah.
Correct. Correct.
So every company that is listed, when they publish the annual report, they have to issue their Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance report as well.
That's right.
So that report will tell you to what extent the company is meeting the objective of the governance codes, where they are complying, where they are not complying, blah, 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 and all that. So you can read from there. So if you're particularly interested, for example, Tenaga National, then you can go to Tenaga National, I mean the Bursa Malaysia website under Tenaga Nasional, and you will see that the corporate governance
The
report is
CG
there.
report, yeah.
So you can see what is deviation, what is not, what is in compliance, that kind of thing. So you can learn from that.
Great.
That's
great.
one.
Yeah.
You can also go to FC's website. If you want to download the code itself, then you can see the whole document. I think it's about 30 pages, 40 pages thereabouts. Yeah, so you can read through.
Yeah.
And there are examples given as well.
Great.
Even in Bursa's website, there is a Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance guideline. And they give examples also. All right,
Yeah.
so it's very good. Actually, it's educational. It's just a question whether you want to
Exactly.
you want to go
That
and-
mile, the extra mile.
Yeah, if you want to learn, you read lah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, right, if you have any rules right now that you would want to add or subtract, right, in corporate governance. Like, so for example, you mentioned the 30% female rule just now.
Yeah, you see, I spoke about this before, and I said that while the code is good and well and good, yeah, but the issue is that sometimes, what if people don't comply? What do you do about it? Right? So there's no punishment. So to me, it needs to be made into a law lah. Certain things.
Okay. You feel
I mean, like independent director.
Independent, I agree.
I'm very serious about that one.
Yes.
So that one, you should, pass a law, under the Companies Act, that the independent director can only serve so and so. That's it. Full stop. So legally, you cannot serve. Now there's still a loophole.
Yes.
You see? So that one, I feel that you should change the law.
Actually, we were asked this question. I was asked this question at an event. Can one of the participants said, can we take companies who are either not complying with corporate governance or fraudulently lying to investors? Can we take them to task? So I brought up the issue of corporate governance and understanding. I just asked them your basic rights. Who is the independent director? To your point about 9 years, who is the independent director actually serving? It's actually the minority shareholders.
By right. Yeah.
By right lah.
Yes and no lah. But independent directors actually, of course, all directors serve the company.
Correct.
All right, for the best interest of the company. All right, that's the standard argument. Yeah. But of course, the reason why the independent directors are there are basically a little bit of check and balance.
Yes.
All right, to make sure no hanky-panky, to make sure things are above board.
Yeah.
That things are done properly. There is some proper procedure, proper structure. All that audit committee, risk committee, nomination committee. All kind of things. So all that comes together.
Yes.
That's where the independent directors' voices are there. All right, so that the directors, because you are a public company, you have taken public money to run your business. All right, there must be some sort of check and balance.
Correct. So if then the point I was trying to raise is that the reason why the independent director is there, in a way, is to serve the shareholders as well.
Yes.
To be their eyes and ears, because
I don't say shareholders, say stakeholders.
Stakeholders, okay, good point. Stakeholders, not just because you see, when you are taking public money, how would you be above board when there's no policeman? That's why you need a police system. Okay, I wouldn't say police. I would say
no, but at the same time, I must also correct you.
Yeah, please.
Independent directors cannot be just yes men.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah.
So don't forget, this is also another. I mean, of course, it all is very individual already.
Yes.
Because you see, the problem in today's is not only Malaysia everywhere else.
Yeah.
When you talk about independent directors, how are they elected?
They're by the board.
Yeah, but how?
Through appointment.
Yeah, but how does the appointment come about? How does Mr. A become a director in this company?
The company, companies that one,
But how do the company know Mr. A?
Usually friends.
You see?
Family members.
Correct. You see, so then the question, the test of independent comes in.
Exactly,
How independent is the independent director?
Actually, that was the point I was trying to raise.
So I have mentioned this before, and ICDM is very supportive of what I'm trying to say. And in fact, they obviously quote me sometimes as well. By right, Malaysia should change the law. Right? When it comes to independent director, the company shouldn't have a say in appointing.
That should be the way.
ICDM, being an independent body, can recommend at any time, whenever there is a vacancy, 3 candidates. You choose from there.
So you have a pool of people.
Yes.
And you, in a way, place
Correct.
out.
And I can tell you what, I have also written this, as I said before. Independent directors should not be paid by the company.
That's
Director
true as
fee,
well.
remuneration, all that kind of thing.
You know why? You know what the independent director, what the company should do? The company should put a X amount of money
into
a fund.
Correct. I
Into
agree.
a fund managed by ICDM, for
Yes,
example,
yes,
and
yes.
that fund pays the independent director.
Yes.
That's where independent comes.
Yes.
You know how to be independent.
Correct. Oh.
So let's, I agree with you, but let's take the other side for a moment.
Yeah.
And let's say, if you do that, what is the attraction or attractiveness for someone to be an independent director to take on that sort of risk? And if, let's say, the fund that they manage
Okay,
is
that
not
I
good
tell you
enough.
another story.
Okay.
You know why? Because if you talk about executive directors,
Yes.
managing directors, what sort of salaries are they drawing?
Big,
Big. How much the directors' fees are? How many independent directors get how much?
not much. Maybe sometimes 3,000, 4,000.
Why so? Why is the gap?
Yeah.
Where else a director defined under Companies Act doesn't differentiate whether you're executive or independent.
Yeah.
All directors are treated equally. But when it comes to remuneration, all right, there is a
Independent
big
director.
disparity
Yes.
between what is paid by
Yes.
to executive directors and
Yeah.
independent directors. All right, so perhaps maybe ICDM or whoever that is, or maybe SC or
Give
they
them
can
money
come up
lah
with some
to-
sort of structure.
Sounds like MMA medical standard. If GP, this is how much
Yes,
consultation
correct.
fee.
If your market cap is 1 billion above, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
independent director is, let's say, I just give you an example.
Yeah.
Okay, 20,000 above, for example.
Yep.
If your market cap is 500 million above, 15,000. Right, that kind of thing. So there's already a structure
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah,
how much
yeah.
you have to pay.
Yeah.
You see, so then it becomes a bit more professional, right? And ICDM has a very robust way of screening. Right, ICDM will not simply recommend a client, a potential candidate to company A, company B. It won't happen.
Yeah.
So what's stopping this solution?
Implementation, yeah.
This idea that you have right now.
Well, I don't know. I have given this idea, and some people are supportive of it, but it
Yeah.
has not come to fruition, lah.
Yeah.
Because I find that the way how independent, I mean, you have nominating committee and all that.
Yeah.
But what's the point when you have kawan-kawan appointed as independent
yeah.
director?
No, the best part is
What is the rationale behind?
Passive income.
No, it's not that. I think people should not take the
Yeah.
job of an independent
Yeah, of
director,
course, exactly.
as a side income or anything like
Yes.
that. It's a very heavy responsibility.
gig
No,
economy.
because you know why?
Yeah.
Your legal liability
It's
very high.
is huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
So don't think earning 3,000, 5,000 every
Not worth
month is
it.
buta money. You
Actually,
never know.
for me, you pay
Not
me
worth it,
20K a month, and then now with MSCC now, the
Yes,
MSCC
yes,
Act 17,
17A.
yeah, 17A,
Yes.
right? No joke,
Yeah, no joke.
Your
That's why I said.
subsidiary, give bribe, you kena, as a
No, so that's why, you're right.
Yeah.
So that's why I said your legal liability is the same, whether
Yes.
you're independent director or normal director.
Yeah.
But your remuneration, you are not paid equally.
yeah.
I mean, yes, you don't work 24/7 or you
Yes.
don't work as an employee.
Yes, yes.
But you are still responsible,
Correct.
So the amount that you are being paid as an independent director is not commensurate with the risk.
Yeah. Why do it?
Why? Yeah. So we need to change.
Yes.
So like income, it makes a lot of sense that some independent body should be paying.
Yeah.
Will you have the same thoughts about shares?
What do you mean by shares?
Like them given shares at all?
This is another issue.
Yeah.
Because under Bursa listing requirement 1.1 basically tells you what's an independent director, right? And one of the condition, an independent director is a person who is not a major shareholder. Then you go back to definition. What is a major shareholder?
Yes, yes.
What's the
5%,
major? 5%.
Yeah.
So if you hold 4.9%, you are not major shareholder. You can be independent director.
But
But if you're 4.9% of Maybank,
Yeah.
that's huge amount of money,
You're one of the richest men though, Malaysia.
Yeah, correct. So your personal interest, if you are independent director, has a huge factor.
Yeah.
In making decisions.
Correct.
So that line, it should be not a major shareholder, but it should not be a shareholder.
Yeah.
You should take out the major lah.
Yes.
All right. Independent directors should not be shareholders.
Very interesting. Very
No,
interesting.
when he brought up that point, right, I just remembered one guy, he's non-executive chairman, but if you look at the percentage, I'm not going to name the company.
Yeah.
He had 4.9% of the company share.
Yeah,
Non-executive, but
So you
non-executive
see,
chairman.
so there are people play with the loophole lah.
Yeah.
I gave you the same example.
Yeah,
5%,
yeah.
4.9.
Yeah.
So people can get away with it by playing within the rules.
Yes.
And still remain independent.
Independent.
But
So-
again, if you look at SC's report on governance,
Yeah.
when you talk about independent directors, you
So
know,
I was reading that. That's why I was bringing this up because
you know, there was a director that's 40 years as independent director.
yeah. I read that part. I was like, 9 years
40 years,
already.
How can you be independent after 40 years? You tell me lah.
Yeah, Pankaj, you know what I normally do? When they bring up resolution of re-voting or re-electing of nothing, I virtually don't vote lah. Because for me, it's
Doesn't
like
matter, doesn't
whether I vote or not, it doesn't matter. I'm such a small minority.
And the other thing, I'm also quite baffled today, especially because demand for women directors and independent directors is rising.
Yeah.
You get the same people being appointed over and over again.
No, because you see, the struggle is this.
No, but then how do you balance?
the good ones, all the good company want to sapu ma.
Yeah, but then you can't be like Mr. A sits on
50.
no, you can't. You cannot
Five
go
lah.
more than 5.
More than
but
5,
even
right?
5,
Yeah.
even let's say you're 4,
Yeah.
it's very heavy.
Yes.
Especially if all the 4 are large companies.
And then you have
these are
to-
large companies.
You have to read board papers, you prepare
Yes.
for the meeting one.
Correct.
No joke one, I tell
It's
you.
no joke.
Yeah.
So to me, no, because one of the things about governance is about time commitment.
Yes.
Because when you talk about reporting season, right, it's always, that
FYE,
February.
December, then...
The February, May, August,
Yeah,
November,
yeah.
all right? And everybody goes almost to the last day.
Yes.
So how do you divide your time?
Yes.
All right, if you are 4 companies, rushing here and there,
Yeah.
So I think there must be some limit lah. I mean, even if you talk about 5, you shouldn't be representing more than 2 companies that are large, for
Precisely,
example.
Yes, yes.
Large meaning companies with market cap more than 2 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other 3 can be smaller ones, 2 be large. So you must also differentiate.
Yeah.
Because it's too heavy. To me, it's too heavy.
That's why sometimes I see, right, especially some big ones, I remember I was seeing 3. You again? That kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, you get sometimes you see hey, this person, independent director in 4 companies, in 4 different industries.
Yes. How do they gain the expertise to give valuable input to the board, right?
Correct.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know lah. I find that
But so when it comes to reporting, I think especially in this decade and beyond, I think ESG is a big part of reporting, right?
Yeah.
So, like for example, I believe the part about having 30% women as on the board, that's a very S thing, right? That's the social part of things.
Governance.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. The governance part of
social
things.
is more like how you treat your workers.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like for me, when I look at a law like that, it doesn't make sense. It's a bit like Hillary Clinton saying you should vote for me because I'm a woman, right? That means people who, like the lot of the women that are going to be on these boards now, people are going to look at that and say, well, you're there because you're a woman.
Rather than being married.
I think there's certain argument to this lah. But I beg to differ lah at the same
Okay.
time. I also feel that Malaysia has enough pool as far as women are concerned to pick them
Right.
to be in the board.
Yep.
So I don't see that as an issue.
Okay.
In fact, there are 2 bodies that is championing women's participation in board, the 30% Club and League Women. And they have done a fantastic job in terms of promoting new directors. I mean, some of our women are really qualified. If they are professionals, whether they are accountants, lawyers, engineers. So all these, we have the talent. It's a question of
Are we
them,
surfacing them enough?
surfacing them and widening the pool of people who can be independent directors. So I don't see it's an issue. To me, 30% is fine. So I mean, of course, we men sometimes feel that how come we are now being discriminated?
No, I mean, I guess the difficult part for the clubs that you mentioned would be how much of the lack of women representation is down to either skill shortage or just straight up sexism.
I think there are 2 things. One is, of course, to be professionally qualified. And, of course, to be a board member, you also need to understand board issues.
Yes.
You got to be trained a bit. And some of them, they have a mentor-mentee program where somebody will guide them.
Groom lah.
Groom the young one, I mean the new ones, to tell them learning the ropes a bit here and there, getting them to attend courses, to improve their skill sets. So all that's been done. So I feel that we are in the right direction. In fact, the numbers are going up as far as women participation is concerned.
And I know, I don't know whether it's still true today. I remember checking out, I think out of the 10 or 11 odd investment banks that we have in Malaysia, 3 were headed by women. And this is not a stat that even the US can actually accomplish, or even Europe, right, for that matter.
So we have very good talents.
Yeah, definitely. Last bit I have on the governance issue before we move on to something else is actually whistleblowing.
So one of the so we have talked a lot about how the regulators need to put in laws, need to implement and all that to ensure that there's no corporate governance hanky-panky, right? But as we've seen in places like the US, where supposedly corporate governance is at a pristine level, considered by many, whistleblowers play a big role.
Yeah.
Because these are the guys right inside.
Yeah.
Perhaps they have a conscience, perhaps they
Yeah.
think that things should be done differently.
Correct.
And they come out and expose their companies.
Expose
Take
the wrongdoings.
risk. Right. But I remember reading articles saying that they're not protected enough. And so what do you mean by that?
I think this happens maybe not known to the market, internally, because whistleblowing how it does, right? If you are a whistleblower, you structure-wise within any company there is a reporting
Hierarchy.
And of course investigations. Once it's reported, investigations can take place. Typically, it's through the audit committee. Or maybe if there is a risk person, the person who would probably take care of it and all that. And then there could be some investigations. And typically, sometimes company try to put things, settle things lah. Yeah. So either way lah. So sometimes things don't turn up. Don't surface. In fact, I think I remember, was it last week or week before? I read an article. There was this guy who was actually charged under the Whistleblowing Act. I think that Whistleblowing Act has been around since 2010, if I'm not mistaken. It's been around a very long time. He was the first person that was charged. And
he was the whistleblower and he was charged.
I can't remember the sequence of things.
Okay.
But the case was dropped.
Ah.
All right? Something like that.
Okay.
No, I think there was a director that
Okay.
actually probably took action on the whistleblower. So this guy was
Oh
charged.
yes. I remember reading about it. Yes.
And the case was dropped.
It was a property developer or something, I'm not mistaken, and then drawing some money here.
So the question of whether again enforcement, and I think a lot of companies, when it comes to whistleblower, they don't want to get it out. They want to try to, if there is any, for example, whistleblowers within the system, they try to settle things on their own way lah.
Yeah.
They don't want it to be blown out.
Public image tarnish.
Yes. Yeah, reputation risk.
Yeah.
But in the US, like you pointed out, people don't care.
People love it. I mean, Edward Snowden, right?
Snowden.
Everyone knows.
I mean,
it.
I watched
The ultimate-
recently a few series, mini series about all these startups and don't know what.
Yes,
I don't know
yes.
whether you watched Dropout. Did you watch Dropout?
No, not yet.
No.
Elizabeth Holmes.
I love the chronology of. I've read the book. There's this thing called Bad Blood. I don't know if you've read.
Yeah.
Bad Blood. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Elizabeth Holmes is a
Yes,
series
yes.
called Dropout.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched WeWork's.
WeWorks. Yes.
One. It's called what? What was it called?
Was it on Netflix?
No, it's not on Netflix.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it was on YouTube or something.
And I just finished watching Inventing Anna.
Oh, Inventing Anna. Oh, yes.
So all these things, you also makes you wonder. This generation today, the young ones, with all kinds of thoughts and all kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
And because we have so much of liquidity in the market,
Yes.
it's so easy to con people.
Yeah.
All you need to have is an image.
Flash. You need the flash. You need the bang.
Yeah.
And then after that.
And like in Elizabeth Holmes' case, she just lied all the way.
Yes.
All the way.
And the funniest part, I wouldn't. Okay, I used the wrong word. It's not the funniest.
And it was a whistleblower, right? That
Yes.
brought it up.
It was George Schultz's grandson.
Yeah.
And he was prosecuted. You remember he was like,
Yeah.
his grandfather couldn't believe him.
Yeah.
Everyone. in the
Nobody
family-
believed him
Nobody
because they
believed
all
him.
were hooked with Elizabeth Holmes.
Yes, exactly. And
very
I find it
charming.
very sad lah.
Yeah, so it's the character of the person.
Yes.
She dressed like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Very articulate.
Very articulate.
Yeah.
And then manly voice.
Yeah.
That's a must have a
That
value.
was like purposely done.
Yeah, purposely done. And then there were sometimes telepas, right? Then she had a feminine voice, and then she quickly like. But the great point that you brought up about this facade or this image, right? I think as an investor, from your experience investing and analyzing companies for so long, right? What are the red flags that you pick up? I mean Malaysia. I mean Elizabeth Holmes, WeWork, and all that is very big.
Yeah.
But in Malaysia, have you
Telltale
seen?
signs,
What are the telltale signs that you've seen? Because I know a few companies. one telco, I wouldn't name. I think you know who I'm talking about. They came in, they say very big, and then it's a favorite punter stock.
No, I think a lot of companies, especially you talk about startups,
Yeah.
the modus operandi is almost the same.
Okay.
You know, in terms of ideas like it's all idea generation.
Okay.
And you know how startups work, right?
Yeah.
Because you are basically trying to pitch. You have
Yes.
to get monies from investors, whether it's seed money or angel or Series A, B, C, whatever you call it. At the end of it, it's all storytelling. All right, you got to tell a story. What is your company going? Where is your company going? Where is the target market? You know, I mean, okay, like, now you come to this. You talk about Grab, for example.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, you're already laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, I say, oh, what term is they use? Target addressable market. What
Total
they call it?
addressable
Total addressable
Total
market.
addressable market. I find that like, what the hell is that?
It's a very new term.
Yeah, so when you look at Grab's financial presentation, it's very different than any other listed company's presentation.
They created
They
new
create-
matrices.
Correct. They create matrices to make them look good.
Yeah.
But what is it today?
Yeah.
Do you know Grab has raised 22 billion so far? Do you know what's Grab's losses so far?
I think more than that, right?
15 billion.
And this is after nearly doubling the Grab cost
Grab-
post-COVID in 2022.
Losses to date is 15 billion US dollars.
Yes.
After raising 22 billion. All right. Net cash, if you take out what they have marketable securities, they've invested in other things and all
Yeah.
that. They only have 1.1 billion cash.
We were joking, man. We said the cash that they have, cash and equivalent, is the amount of money they raise.
No, so at the end of it,
Yeah.
actually the business model is not sustainable.
Yeah.
So to me, I look at Grab, they only have 3 options left. 1, raise more money. 2, reduce costs. 3, raise prices.
Which they're already indirectly they're doing already.
So
huh?
they are doing this one now.
Yeah.
They're raising prices.
Yes,
Because
yes.
they know they can't sustain.
Yeah.
It's not if Grab cannot sustain, what do you think about other ride-hailing companies?
That's why when another company which is red in color try to say they're going to be a super app whatsoever,
I go back to that.
Yeah.
I was reading, I don't want to mention names. I was
Yeah.
reading a research analyst report and did say that this company, tech bubble has burst.
Yep.
Even Grab is down like 70% or
Yeah,
75%.
yep.
And yet this analyst still valuing that company's ride-hailing business at full value.
Yeah.
So how do you call a buy on the stock?
Yeah. The struggle is this, Pankaj, is that when you try to distort the market with all these basic matrices, I always fall back to the simple rule. You know, EV EBITDA, and then Charlie Munger called EV
EBITDA.
EBITDA, right?
That's
EV
the-
EBITDA.
EV,
Previous
EV
earnings.
EBITDA is still fine.
Yeah.
If you don't come and tell me about price to sales.
Oh,
All right.
yes, yeah.
I was looking at, I wrote about buy now, pay later.
Yes.
BNP,
And I was doing a little bit of homework.
Huh?
And I was looking at this guy, I forgot the name. But looking at this company when it was listed, and the share price is like,
The Australian one, right?
can't remember this Australia one.
Yeah.
So at one time, it was trading post IPO at its peak, 55 times sales. Today, the share price has kaput 80%.
Yeah.
It's still trading at 8 times sales.
Wow. So
Half the IPO price now.
I think the bankers made out with the owners exit, the bankers who collected the fees made the most in a way.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You see, this is a game.
Yes.
All right. When you talk about all these startups raising money, valuations to the roof,
Yeah.
they come for IPO years down the road where they are.
Yeah. Actually, just boil back down to the basics. When are you going to be profitable? Where's your
That's
cash
the
flow?
thing.
Yes.
To me, it's very simple.
Yeah,
When you
just
talk
make
about
it
startup,
simple. Yeah.
in the next 10 years, are you going to make money or not? At the end of the day, business is about making money.
Yes,
Business
yes.
is not about EV over EBITDA.
Yeah.
Business is not about EV over sales.
Yes.
It's not about price to sales. It's not about whether you're going to Germany or Hong Kong to expand your business. When are you going to make money?
Can you pay the electricity bills or not? That's
Yeah.
it.
No, at the end of it, it's about money.
Yeah.
Because if you ask any businessman,
Yeah.
they will tell you, I want my ROI.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to, so what if the valuation goes from 10 billion to 15 billion? What does it make? It's only on paper that I make money.
What is the value creation in a way? Yeah.
So, you saw Grab. Grab was valued at 40 billion.
Yeah, it's
just
insane.
coming to listing.
Yeah.
WeWork was rumored as high as what? 120, was it?
Yeah.
I
I
can't
can't remember,
remember.
lah, but I remember one phrase in the prospectus that said, we do not expect to make money
Ever.
ever.
So why do you buy a stock that tells you I'm not going to make money ever?
But because people don't read.
So you see,
people-
you see people like Grab, for example, or any other startups in this space. Strategy is very simple.
Yes.
Either I expand my product, I have new product, or I go new market.
Yes.
This is the only way I can grow. All right, like Grab goes into buying Jaya Grocer, for example. Right, I go into a new business stream. Now rumor is that, I'm sure you have read, they are even talking about buying M-Bank, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a digital bank, now you're going to go into traditional bank.
Because that's where real money is. No,
I mean,
just kidding.
literally, that's where the money is.
Yeah,
lah.
that's where the money is.
Actually, I blame Amazon for all of this because they were the ones that duped a lot of these investors that, hey, the first 5 or 6 years, no profit. And after that,
correct. This model.
this model.
it's Amazon's fault.
Yeah. So everybody else use Amazon's excuse.
but
Hey,
not
look,
everybody
Amazon's
has
never
Jeff
make money.
But not everybody has Jeff Bezos.
Correct.
I want to do you have any more questions on corporate governance?
No. Yeah. No, this one actually can segue many ways. It's just like, let's come back to the anchor.
I have to be honest, this is probably something we find interesting, but I don't know about the listeners. I think only some will. But I know we talked a lot about inflation and commodities just now. You recently wrote about palm oil.
Yeah.
Right? And in the ESG vein, right, I really have just a few questions to ask you. One is about risk. One is about the sustainability of the price. And actually, what is your take on why prices are going up as well?
Like we talked about earlier, supply disruption. And palm oil being a vegetable oil, and it is a replacement oil for other vegetable oil.
Yes.
And when you have a situation where sunflower oil is disrupted, so
Soybean oil disrupted.
soybean because of weather,
Yes.
production, so it's all of that. And even Malaysia, I mean, beginning of the year, we saw disruption, because of flood and all that. So when you have disruption in terms of supply and demand is still there, obviously any commodity prices, will just jump.
Rise. Basic laws of economics.
Yeah, basic. But of course, there's also the cost factor. As you know, for palm oil, fertilizer cost has gone up, urea has gone up.
Yeah.
So all this part of your war in Russia, in Ukraine, causing the disruption. So that's why prices have moved up to a certain extent. And of course, as I said, cost has gone up. So margins are better, but not significantly that better.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you think this is sustainable for palm oil specifically? I know you gave your
I
thoughts
don't think so. It's any commodity for that given, you can have this parabolic thing for a while, but sooner or later price will come back to normal. But it can only come back to normal on 2 counts. One is, of course, supply returns to normal, and of course cost normalizes.
Yes.
If it doesn't, then prices can stay elevated for a while.
Yeah.
Right.
The best part is the guy selling the palm oil. Right? I mean, I do the groceries most of the time. I got a bit shocked now when I saw the 5 kilo. I normally buy the 5 kilo one, right? Usually it's 20, 27, 29.
Now it's like 50.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Char siu rice now is like what?
10 ringgit already.
10
12,
ringgit.
10, 12 ringgit.
10 ringgit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be 8 ringgit.
Yeah, so all has impact at the end of it.
Yeah.
But do you think this is like, I guess, my theory is that one of the reasons why the KLCI has not fallen as much as the other economies is because I think there's a perception for global fund managers, right, when they're looking to allocate assets, that Malaysia is a commodity-based country,
Economy,
right? Oil and gas, and of course
Oil and gas plantation,
palm oil, right? So, in a way, because we are not so evolved as an economy, so as a result, the decline is not so big. But do you think this price going up and all that, do you think it's a good for economy, or it's just too small for
Well, it's still huge, I must say, because
course.
palm oil is a big thing in Malaysia.
Yep.
Plantation, we have big plantation companies, even small holders, significant amount of them. In places like Johor and
Sabah,
Sarawak.
Yeah.
So it has significant impact on the ground.
Right.
In terms of higher prices. So of course they are maybe laughing all the way to the bank.
Right.
But in any cycle, as you can see, we have seen before, and we will see it as well again. Prices will normalize.
Yeah.
The question is, where would it normalize?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, we saw how the glove colors. So it's not going to sustain lah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, glove also to me is a commodity.
Yes.
At
It
the
is,
end of it, it's just a question somebody else ramping up production.
Yeah. It just happened this part of the world can produce that kind
correct.
of commodity.
Correct.
lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, plantation palm oil also you can't just overnight produce it.
Yeah.
It takes
7
time
years,
for.
yeah.
No. What 2.5, 3 years.
Ah,
7
yeah,
is
to
rubber.
start harvesting, yeah.
Yeah, start harvesting lah on the third year onwards.
Yep,
You may
correct.
peak at around 7th year.
Yeah, correct,
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, so there is a gestation period. You
Yes,
see? So you can't just go into the sector.
It's
and-
not like manufacturer. Set up factory line, jalan, that kind of
yeah,
thing.
no, you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you can buy over existing estates
Yes.
who is already in production, then can lah.
Yeah.
But prices will be.
Who want to sell you at this kind of
No,
inflated?
this is the best time to sell plantation land.
Oh yeah, at peak valuations.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should sell
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you want to sell when prices are
Especially
low?
if you want to retire and you don't
Yeah.
take the risk, just sell it.
Correct,
out.
sell.
Yeah,
You should sell now.
Go retire.
Yeah.
but what I know one thing that is plaguing not just the power industry, but definitely part of it is like finding like workers, foreign workers. There's that
Oh, that's
whole
a big thing,
discussion
actually.
about shortage, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to mechanize. I mean, I was reading
Yeah.
it's not easy to
Not easy,
mechanize.
not easy.
Yeah.
Actually, you know that even Malaysia, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've read is that the Malaysian palm oil, the species, is actually shorter.
Shorter
Purely
mean like
the height.
the height. Okay.
So that
okay.
it's easier for you to cut.
Do you know what's the tallest palm oil tree in the world?
No, I don't.
It's in Malaysia. Do you know that?
Oh, really?
And you know how old is it?
No.
It's 107 years old.
Wow.
Wow. And is it still producing?
It's still there.
Okay.
Only thing is that you can't reach lah. It's super high.
Yeah.
Now that you mention this, I don't know why it just reminded me that the tallest player in NBA is a Chinese. I don't know why
Yao Ming.
Okay, anyway, yeah, continue.
Yeah, the because one of the reasons is it's very difficult to find labor.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They wanted to make it shorter.
You see, this is the thing I don't understand.
Yes.
The industry keep complaining. Say, oh, we are losing 20 billion this year because we don't have workers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Eh,
Pay them more.
why are you relying on foreign worker? Why
Yes.
can't you pay the Malaysian 3,000 ringgit per month?
Yes.
Yeah, so why do you think they don't want to pay?
That's why. So I'm asking this question as well. You are making super profit.
Yeah.
And you're complaining you can't reap that profit because you can't have workers.
Yeah.
You can't have workers because you're not willing to pay. But why are you not willing to pay when prices are that high?
Yes.
You should pay.
Can you imagine?
Can you? I mean,
You imagine you pay
does it make
workers
sense
10K.
to you?
Yeah. You pay workers 10K. You think they don't want to go?
Sure, they'll go.
They'll go, man. That's what I'm
The
saying.
only
lah.
to what 10, 3, 4 also enough already.
Yeah.
Workers will go.
Yes,
Workers
yes.
will come.
Yes.
They will learn the rope and start. All you need just to harvest the thing, what?
Yeah. But apparently they say it's not easy.
I mean, not easy lah. You learn lah.
You learn lah.
That is, I don't think so. It takes ages to learn.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So to me, it's very simple. If you are a palm oil producer or the industry for that matter is complaining,
Yeah.
hire locals.
I think, okay, here's where I want to solicit a
Yeah.
discussion with you. Is it because that the Malaysian labour policy has allowed the flourishment of a lot of this cheap labour out? Rather than, you look at where Japan is, in a way, obviously there's nuances like they're a homogeneous society, they don't allow too much foreign labour, but then labour cost service business in Japan is so expensive.
Yeah.
But it's because of government policies. In a way, they don't allow too many migration and immigration to come in. If Malaysia were to go down that route, do you think it will work?
It should. I mean, it worked in everywhere else.
Yes,
Even in
yes.
Singapore.
Yes.
All right. There is a certain level only you can apply for a foreign worker. You
Yeah,
know.
yes.
No, not simply anybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry can just
Correct.
walk in and start working in Singapore. It's
Yes.
not easy.
Yes.
Right. So even in Malaysia, we should do that. We
Yeah.
should not be just because we need maid and someone to clean the drains. We bring in the foreign workers.
Yes, yes.
That shouldn't be the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in a way, the
Because sooner or later we are going to lose out, because we are not going to be able to hire these people anymore.
correct.
Yeah.
Very simple. You can't find Indonesian maids anymore
Yes.
because they can get better pay in Indonesia
Yeah.
than coming to Malaysia.
Because the economy has flourished in a way.
Not only that, their minimum wage has increased as well.
Mm.
All right. So why you want to bother come to Malaysia?
Yes.
So we end up recruiting Bangladeshis, Myanmar,
Myanmaris,
Cambodian. All right. Sooner or later, if these countries start to move, we
They'll
have
go
no
back.
more resources.
And the worst part is that because when they go back, the years of underdevelopment or under what do you call it, spending on mechanization, automation, and all that has taken a backseat because got cheap labor, mah.
Yeah.
And-
So everybody say, oh, I can hire now 1,500, I was
Yeah.
1,200. Okay, I can hire 1,500. Why would I want to pay 2,500?
Yeah.
I wait lah until I get the worker 1,500.
Yes.
It's really weird. Lah.
Yeah. And then 10 years from now, people are already robots and everything doing things. Here, hey, where's my Cambodian or where's my
No, I think we are doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, we should change the law in terms of which sectors can hire foreigners.
Yes.
You know, in what field and at what cost.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So even let's say if our minimum wage is 1,500, doesn't mean that we have to pay everybody 1,500. You know, you should tell, you know, oh, for this industry, this should be the price. You know, because
Set a
you have
bench-
different skill set, different type of background of
Correct.
Yeah.
And rather than in a way the Ministry of let's say Human Resource determine, right, they should allow industry players to give input to say, hey, this is what we're seeing on the ground. This should be the benchmark rather than them arbitrarily just 1,500.
No, but even then, it's very. I mean, like to me, when you allow foreign local companies to hire foreigners, yes, you pay them 1,500 or whatever that is. You know, the government should also put pressure on companies in the sense that you tell them you want to hire, can you also must pay levy. You know, you must pay higher. Yeah, so it's like you are what do you call? It's a higher cost lah.
Yes.
Instead of hiring just at 1,500,
Yes.
the cost is actually 2,000 maybe, for example.
Yes.
All right,
Then
you pay
it
for every worker,
incentivizes.
500 ringgit extra goes to the government levy.
So in a way, it incentivizes them indirectly
To
to
hire
hire
local.
locals. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I think the rebuttal for a lot of people who hear this is that they just don't see the same level of efficiency with the locals. They just don't see the same level because the locals are in Malaysia, relative Singapore side, relatively better standard of living. Someone coming from some kampung in Indonesia or wherever, you know,
They're hungry.
They're hungry.
I
and
agree
they're
with you, yeah.
They're willing to work more for less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you convince, let's say, a businessman who thinks like that?
Difficult, really. Yeah, because this is again human nature. Because a lot of people say that Malaysians are lazy. If you tell them to work 9 to 5, they will just work 9 to 5. You know, they wouldn't want to put in the extra hour. You know, they will not spend time to learn new tricks or whatever it is. You know, or new skills. You know, or take on added responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, so Malaysia has been labelled lazy to the extent.
Yeah.
So how do you change that culture? Yeah. So I think the only way we can do that is for people to realize that they need to change the way
They run businesses, maybe a profit sharing scheme.
either way
Yeah.
You know, some way. I mean, to me, I don't know about you guys, but when I was young, I felt driven to learn. You know, that I want to do more. You know, it's not just that 9 to 5 thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
I
yes,
wanted to improve myself. I want to learn new things. I want to take on added responsibility. You know, so but you don't see that.
In this generation,
Yeah, in this generation.
I have to agree somewhat. I mean, I used to be in a hiring team in Shell as well, so work-life balance.
So how do you motivate these people,
Yeah.
especially the younger ones?
Yes.
How?
Yeah. Different I think there are nuances where in your generation, my generation, and their generation. I mean, he's 20-something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, this is one of the rare podcasts where we have 3 generations.
Yes,
Oh, God.
yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because the economic circumstances, the development of the country at that point, at his point,
Different.
my point,
Different.
is very different. I
Yeah,
mean, how can I simulate scenarios for even my kids 5 and 13, right? Like for my son, having a $10 ice cream is very normal. Right? I mean, you're nodding your head. You're shaking
La
your head.
Cremeria.
Yeah, La
Oh.
Cremeria, right? But these are the prevalence of what we call it social mobility.
Yeah. I mean, things that is available today is different than what were available during my time.
Correct. And because of that,
There was no Starbucks then.
yes,
Yeah.
because of this upward social mobility and the optionalities that are accorded to the society today, that's why for them there is no. How do you simulate the situation? I mean, just look at Robert Kwok. Yes, he came from a well-endowed family, but he had to go through war. He had to go through a lot of economic, in a way, hardship.
Yeah.
Right? and they were dealt with different cards. Whereas the kids today, right, you ask them options. In a way, how do I simulate that scenario is different. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So-
And I will add that it's not that there is a lack of that hunger, but the question is what they're hungry about. So, for
Yes.
example, right, maybe
No, they I think perhaps easily satisfied as to what.
but you see,
I
right?
don't know.
But you see, for example, ESG. Why are young people so into ESG? You know, they will fight tooth and nail so that they can have gender equality. So
the cause, maybe the
maybe they are-
belief.
yeah,
Belief, I think it's a
there's
belief.
that. I mean, it's to your point lah about that
Yeah.
internal sort of motivation that they're
Yeah.
looking at.
When you mentioned that Greta Thunberg, that young
Yeah,
girl
yeah.
from, was it Norway? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Norwegian,
I don't like her, but
Yeah, lah,
yes,
they are more conscious about environment, social issues.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Governance maybe not so lah, but more about
Yeah.
environment.
They will champion these issues, but then when they talk about working long hours, they see it as a form of suppression. There's a
Yeah.
form of
Yeah, so that's where the
I mean,
S
like-
comes in.
yes.
Like France recently, the
Yeah.
Champions League final was there. I don't even know. The Champions League final was in France.
In Paris,
They had to
yeah.
delay it, right? Because people were they didn't
I
like
think there was no
Macron's.
crowd control.
Yeah, and Macron's and it happens all the time, right? I think like they were I think debating about wages and inflation, and they want a 4-day work week.
Yeah, 4-day work week. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, but you know that I think it's a good segue to talk. You know, towards the end of the podcast to talk about your personal life and about like why do you write? I know before you know we were on the pod, we talked a little bit about that. But why do you keep writing? Because
Yeah.
why do you have to?
To nothing to do in retirement or something.
Yeah.
No lah. I think it's a passion.
Uh-huh.
First of all, I love to write. Yeah, and to a certain extent, I think there are two reasons why so.
Okay.
One is, of course, depending on topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that writing gives me an opportunity to educate the readers in terms of what is happening around us.
Yeah.
And second is, of course, to express an opinion
Yep.
on matters, whether rightly or wrongly.
Mm.
Yeah. Sometimes it's to criticize, or sometimes it's to support as well.
Mhm.
I've written pieces that I also support the government, for example. Yeah, not an issue.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's just a way of expression.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. In terms of, I mean, I've done. I think the last count was 205, if
Whoa.
I'm not mistaken.
Articles.
Whoa.
Articles. So I'm
Almost
reaching a
year
stage
soon,
where.
yeah. No, sorry, 5 years.
Almost exhausting in terms of what to write.
But can recycle, ma? You
No,
think
lah,
people-
not a right thing to do lah.
not recycle, but we can
Different
update-
perspective.
Yeah,
lah,
different perspective.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have done few like that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Because things have changed.
Correct,
circumstances,
correct.
blah,
New
blah, blah.
nuances.
Yeah. But I try to. I mean, certain things I can't write. Yeah, because as you know
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah.
But what I can, I try. Yeah, and I'm glad that Star also recognizes that, and there's no censorship
Yeah.
Yes.
in terms of what I express.
Yep.
Yeah, I see things that are not right. I like to express myself. I think I've written extensively, especially about governance issues,
Yep.
property market. Yeah. Which I was recently a guest as well, and I think they're asking me to come back again this year to give me a bigger slot to talk about the property market. Yeah, because I think the way the market has been painted, yeah, whether it's developers or consultants and all that, is very different than what the reality is
On the ground. Yes.
on the ground. Yeah, so I'm trying to be a little bit of voice in terms of telling people what it is. I mean, if you look at data today, it's mind-boggling where we are in terms of oversupply,
Mm.
and yet we still build. So where are we going? You
Right.
know? So I mean, even in terms of those that are completed and under construction, compared to 5 years ago, it's doubled.
Right.
That's doubled. So we keep building. Why are we
But
keep building?
there's still a overhang.
It's still overhang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we can't address it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we do about it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really just residential market. Yeah. You're talking about office, malls.
Yes.
Everything.
Mhm.
So I mean, property market is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has significant multiplier effect
Correct.
on other sectors, banking sector.
In a way, it's like the most connected, especially with physical
and I
goods.
even spoke recently about, how even some listed companies, they are up to their neck in terms of or up to their head in terms of debt. You know, so they're using different ways to raise capital. Yeah, so all this has repercussion in terms of how the market will shape up next few years.
Especially when they start issuing perps and all that kind, it doesn't look very, very clean. Not to say clean, not very clear cut.
No, to me, it's very simple. It's a very simple thing.
Yeah,
as far as perps is concerned, you know,
Yes.
to me, it's an accounting issue
Yes.
because the accountants are not recognizing. Although I'm an accountant,
Yes.
accountants are not recognizing that the papers that issued in Malaysia are debts.
Yes.
They are not equity. All right.
That's crazy.
Yes, legally you can tell me that, oh, there's no obligation, blah blah blah. But hello, after 5 years, there's a step up.
Yes.
If you don't redeem,
Yes.
it's going to step up
Exactly.
and go up higher and higher.
Yeah.
If that happens, do you think the company is not going to redeem? And as a company, you can't say that, oh, just because I issued PEPs is not a liability.
Yeah.
It is a liability.
It is. It is.
It costs money.
And how can you say when you raise your perpetuals, oh, I got cash rich now, I'm cash rich. I mean, come on lah. You know, so I get quite,
Cheese off, right?
yeah.
you
So when
go-
I look at these things,
You
I
go take a
find that
personal loan, they say, I'm cash rich.
Yeah, cash.
I'm cash rich
Yeah.
because I got a loan. You know, so
Issue equity back to the bank.
no, see, because the accountants, the auditors have expressed an opinion to say those are not debts.
Yes.
So the company fell is equity. What? Why?
Actually, when you know, I'm trained as an engineer, like Pankaj. When I first understood the concept of perps, right, I scratched my head. You know, I'm like, so you mean there's a loan that is in perpetuity? So who is the eventual banker? You know, that kind of thing. I couldn't figure it out.
couldn't
you know.
figure it out,
I couldn't figure. I mean, logic wise, just
Logic-wise,
common sense,
yeah.
right? Then I think. Actually, bonds I was taught that you have a maturity, then you get your principal back, whatever. Then when perps, right, it's like,
Hey, but John, all
perpetual.
this land can be
No,
99
that is
years.
why-
yeah, exactly.
Because of the word perpetual,
Yeah.
is equity. Equity is perpetual.
Yeah,
Perpetual
correct
mah.
Yeah.
And you know Warren Buffett, right? He says for companies that he invests in, right, he views equity is the most expensive thing to give out.
It is.
But in
Equity is the most expensive.
Yeah, because it's in perpetuity mah, and
Ah.
it rises in value, but that is for a good company. But in
Yeah.
this case, you are issuing out
For
equity
survival.
for survival
Yeah.
and depreciates in value in a way. So
I don't know. I'm lost.
yeah.
No, I find it very disturbing. Yeah, when I look at these things that being misused
Yes.
to
Yeah.
a certain extent.
And to the
And
layman,
when you look, I mean, when you look financial statements and you look at these companies with perpetual,
Yeah.
the dividend that they are paying or the coupon that they're paying,
Yeah.
you know, it's not out of the profit and loss statement. It's out of the equity.
Mm.
All right, so they overstate their P&L.
Yes.
All right, so if I report 60 million profit, actually it's only 20 million because 40 million is actually the interest that I paid for the perpetual,
For the perps.
but I don't show it in my P&L.
Yes.
And on the cash flow, it should be. Does it appear in the financing or the operation? It should be the financing part,
Financing.
right?
Financing.
So that's another trick.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, because technically you are getting all these perpetuals to fund your operation.
Correct. So you see how misleading it is.
Yes.
So I blame it on the accountants.
Yes.
You know, you cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot say this is equity.
Yeah.
This is debt.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
yeah,
That's
that.
crazy.
A real perpetual is the one that doesn't have a step up. Then you call it perpetual. I have no issue.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's why you see, here we are enjoying ourselves discussing about these
Yeah,
issues.
man.
But to the layman investor, they're like, where's all this going on? What does it happen to my? I thought you buy this share, you see profit go up, you know, that kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you this. Since you write so many articles, right? Do you get feedback by people emailing you, giving you text? Hey, I think
Text
you're doing-
messages, yeah lah.
Oh, you give your mobile number there.
No. Friends.
Friends,
Oh,
but no one
friends.
email you and say, hey, Pankaj, I think you're wrong or right.
One or two people. There was one article that really got everyone
Riled
cheesed
up.
off.
Oh, what was it?
I can't remember which one was it. And I think there were like 300 comments on Facebook.
Wow. Must have been politics related then.
Because Star sometimes put it on their Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were like,
So it will go viral, like.
went viral. lah.
Yeah.
And there was one that I actually talked about the debt level of the country.
Oh.
And that one actually even got the response from the ministry,
Whoa, okay.
who tried to tell me that I was wrong because I said a debt is a debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way because I look at it, you know, you have official debt,
Yes.
then you have statutory debt, Then you have federal government debt. There's so many definitions.
Yeah, correct.
So to me, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what debt you're talking about. Off balance sheet.
Yeah, off balance sheet. Well, that's the scary
Off
one.
balance sheet is still a debt.
Yes.
You cannot say it's not a debt.
Yes.
All right. So that's why I
Along loans
say.
are off balance sheet.
That's why I
also,
said
but
a debt is a debt. You know.
Yeah.
I've got like almost 50,000 views on my LinkedIn on that article alone. That was the most read article.
do you have a proudest article? That
Yeah, that's one of them.
That's the one. Is there one where you are obviously they're all published, so obviously you think they're good stuff. But is there one that what's the right word? Maybe a less
Regret writing it.
Yeah, semi-regret. Obviously,
Regret.
None.
None.
Perfect. I only have one last question, which is about how are you personally investing in this sort of environment?
I think cash is important at the moment.
I see.
Yeah, so I think it's best to stay aside for a while. I see headwinds.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable until and unless I see what the Fed does.
I
Okay.
see.
Yeah, and I think we are in for a tough time going forward.
Do you foresee this prolonging 6 months? 8
Yeah,
months?
something like that.
Okay.
Something
okay.
like that.
Yeah.
But there could be some opportunities along the way. We have seen some stocks really being pushed down.
Yeah.
Yeah. They may overshoot.
Yeah.
If they do, then it's an opportunity to accumulate.
Especially when valuations become
Yeah, I think
so
some-
attractive. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people are very familiar with the tech stocks and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they are here to stay, some
Yes,
of them.
yeah.
So I think if valuations come a bit more attractive, yes.
Because
could be
Malaysia always
attractive.
has this valuation premium, especially when it comes to tech, right?
Back to differ.
Yeah.
Certain stocks, yes, not
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Some are still kind of team plays rather than anything else. Like all the EV types and
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. One last thought from
Yep,
me.
yep.
Or question more. Actually, we did discuss this off the pod, but I wanted to bring it for
Yep.
the audience. Readership and ability to comprehend. And the choices of why you choose to write for a more, I would say, slightly wider, no, I wouldn't say slight, wider distribution versus that of a very niche. Now, was it very conscious of you when you decided to write for one daily compared to another more business type kind of?
Yeah, when I first left the industry, of course I thought what to do. Yeah, and one of them was to go back to writing.
You used to write in the industry?
Not
Not as much, right?
well, once a month lah, but that was years ago.
I see.
I think before you guys were in the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to write actually.
see.
I used to have a column,
Ah.
and it was not only in the Star. I also had a column in Sinchu.
Oh,
Of
Sinchu.
course, I didn't write in Mandarin.
So they'll have to
They
translate
translate it
Ah.
into Mandarin. Yeah, so I had article then, but that was once a month. Not very serious that time. But since I came out and I wanted to do something, yeah, there are two things I wanted to do when I left. One is of course writing, and the other one was to do a little bit of training. Yeah, because I also do some CPE training for those people who are licensed and all that. So I started some programs. I'm basically freelance, so I work through some training agencies where they will run the programs and I'll just come in to do the show. And of course for writing, I did ask Star actually, that whether they are comfortable for me to, or give me a column to write, say, for you, no problem. So I started with them, all right, because I wanted to start almost right away after I left. So along the way, of course, another publication also asked me, but then after that, I found that Star perhaps gives me a wider audience. And the readers are a bit different compared to a more niche market, where it's a bit more business focused. So I wanted a wider audience. Reason is because I also feel that it's an opportunity to educate investors, inform investors, or give opinion or share my views. So that's the reason why I stayed on with Star. In fact, today was the date today?
Today is the
6th. Or just, I think my first article was 9th of June.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
almost 4 years ago.
Nice.
9th of June
2018.
2018. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so almost 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, have you gotten, I know we've asked this earlier, but what's the most positive feedback that you've gotten? And what's the most negative feedback you've gotten in a way?
I mean, of course, there are people who write on Facebook, especially in Star's Facebook, not my Facebook,
Okay.
where they comment because Star will share those articles there.
see.
Yeah, so of course you will find all kinds of comments. Yeah, some people will say negative things.
Rubbish
Some will
lah,
say
yeah.
some will say positive thing. Well said, blah blah blah. But personally, I do get some messages from friends and close contacts.
Okay.
So some find it interesting. Some find it. I mean, of course, if they find it not interesting, they will probably not comment. Yeah, but occasionally I do get response. Yeah, from friends and close contacts who will say that, oh, great article.
Maybe your last thoughts about a legacy that you want to leave for. Maybe, okay, I know you may not want to say, hey, personal legacy, I don't know, but maybe a legacy where you think a better generation for a better Malaysia for the next generation. Where do you place your hope on? Where do you think in your role, your capacity, you can actually help, either through investment?
I think well, investment is just one part of the equation as far as where, if you look at all the, if you look at everything around you, but I think the country's direction is more important than investment. Investment can become very lucrative if the country's direction is
headed in the right direction.
path, you know. But I'm rather saddened that I think you read probably, two of the current very bright MPs have expressed an opinion that they may not be standing elections. So I feel sad that the great minds who have very good thoughts and direction, felt that the system is not right in terms of them continuing serving, and therefore they decided to take a break. Not sure whether they're going to come back later. But it also sends a wrong message to others who feel that, I mean, if you look at the parliament, you have 222
lawmakers.
All you need is just about 120 or 130 of them. We need smart, visionary people who are of great leadership skill. We just need 120, 130 of them to be in the parliament to shape the country. That's all. And sadly we don't have. Because the politicians who continue to play politics day in, day out, has spoiled the party, has spoiled the
wisdom of the crowd, ma.
So you reach a stage where you feel very frustrated that these things are happening, and people who think they can contribute are not able to.
Actually, there's a lot of Malaysians who want to, but they see a lot of hurdles.
Correct. They see hurdles, they see roadblocks. They can't, even if they present an idea, is killed off. So we can't move forward. So all I hope is that one day we get there. That we get very decent lawmakers who think of the rakyat, not themselves. Because politics has become so bad that they all think short term. Because to them, once you're elected, you only have 5 years.
Just correct until the maximum, then bye-bye.
So who is there to plan ahead for Malaysia for the next 10 years, 15, 20 years?
Yes.
There's none. All right. So they're all looking after themselves in terms of, how do I get re-elected?
Yes.
That kind of thing. So it's not healthy. Politicians are not thinking of the national agenda, but they're thinking of their personal agenda.
Correct.
So that's not right. So
I
don't know how to change this.
For me, I think Singapore
a lot of people talk about the third force, independent. It's not working. Because you can't have that momentum.
I wish, actually, to be honest, that they implement the Singapore system. Because I feel that's something that, you see, the struggle for a politician like Rafizi Ramli, for example, he went to campaign on I have to salute the family's patience, putting up with him, going to all these places to do all
There's
that.
a lot of sacrifice.
There's a lot of sacrifice, and yet all this actually needs resources. When I say resources means money. So how are they financing themselves to do all this? Politics is money. Yes, it is. On the crude remark, it says it's there to make money, but at the same time, you also need money to showcase your message, to showcase your agenda, you see. And I feel that from my perspective, the Singapore system is not perfect, but close enough where you pay ministers well enough, you pay politicians well enough that you don't need to worry about financing. Rather, you worry about supporting the national agenda, thinking long term, and then you are paid like an employee lah, in a way, a very well paid
MPs are very well paid.
Yeah.
You know, they are very well paid. And you know, after 3 years, if you're not mistaken, in one term, after 3 years, right, you're already entitled to
pension for life, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So it's a very lucrative position actually. And of course, if you are a minister or some other thing, you know, you get extra. You know, some of them are already drawing 100,000 a year. I mean, a month.
A month. So you don't think it's the money?
It's not really. It's more than that. Yeah, and that 100,000 is like nothing. You know, it's just a small change. Yeah, because you see that, you know, people wants to go into politics for different reasons.
Prestige, power,
and money. Right.
Yeah.
So,
you know, we can go on and on, but I don't want to take up too much of your time.
It's only 2 hours.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Also, thank you so much for the work you do in educating the public. Certainly, you have educated me. And guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, you know, share it with your friends, like, comment, subscribe, and go check out his articles.
Yes,
right.
And the stuff. If you want Pankaj to come back, please give us a comment as well.
Actually, you don't say also. We are coming to come back for a part 3.
If they put in if they put in a comment, then more reason for Pankaj not to reject. You see. So.
Man. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and guys, we'll see you in the next one.